ये मैंने कहा
म्यूट। हेलो,
ऑफ करता हूँ। एक ही ऑन रखेगा।
एक ही ऑन रखेंगे, नहीं तो हमारा प्रॉब्लम है।
मेरा स्पीकर आप कौन है?
मेरा ठीक है, मेरा वीडियो ठीक नहीं है, आप वीडियो ऑन कर लीजिए। अपनी सेटिंग्स कैसे चेंज करूं? हेलो, नहीं वो तो क्योंकि वहां से म्यूट है।
Is host now. Charanjit Saha is host now.
Who's host?
Charanjit Saha is host now.
क्या हो गया?
ठीक है, गायब कैसे होता है?
बंद हो गया?
कुछ नहीं, स्पेस मैटर आ गया।
हटा रहा हूँ मैं। कैसे हटा हूँ? ये आएगा। एक काम कीजिए, how do I change this?
Haji sir, good evening. Can you hear me, sir? आवाज जा नहीं रही।
Unmute.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me, माथुर साहब? माथुर साहब, आ रही है आवाज? हेलो, नहीं आ रही।
जानकारी है ना। हेलो हेलो
So good evening.
हेलो
हाँ रोहित,
फोन पे बोलते हैं।
हेलो। हाँ जी, आवाज आ रही है?
So Charanjit sir is
Hello?
trying to say something. Can you say if he can hear you?
हेलो, मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
yeah, tell me. Hello, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Charanjit sir, can you hear us?
Can you hear us? Hello.
Professor Shah, can you hear us? आप कौन है?
हेलो हेलो।
आवाज तो जा रही है। हेलो हेलो
हाँ, अब आ रही है। यस आई कैन।
हेलो।
हेलो हेलो हेलो।
So good evening.
आपके पास
अच्छा, गुड इवनिंग जी।
की आवाज आ रही है?
नहीं आ रही, तुम्हारी आवाज।
यार एक ही
Hello?
स्पीकर और एक ही वो ऑन करता हूँ।
मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
वो अपना स्पीकर ऑन कीजिए आप, बस, और वॉल्यूम भी अपने पे दीजिए। मेरे स्पीकर में इशू आ रहा है, कुछ होगा इशू।
आपका ठीक चल रहा है तो हम आप ही का पैड यूज कर लेते हैं।
हाँ।
बस।
हेलो
शट डाउन में वॉल्यूम नहीं है सर।
Professor Shah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sir. Very good.
Hello.
Yes, Professor Shah, we can hear you. We are all here, and now we can start.
Okay. Hello.
Hello. Yes.
We'll take a minute. We'll restart. अलग की सारी settings अपने आप ले लेगा.
Okay.
Our volume is low. Yes, sir. वो मैंने तेज कर दिया.
जी मैंने अपना स्पीकर बंद कर दीजिए। Can you hear me, Rohit?
Yes, Suditya, we can. We can.
Can all of you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
ठीक है, साउंड उस पे ऑन कर दीजिए, माइक ऑफ कर दीजिए उस पे सेटिंग्स में। बस माइक ऑन कीजिएगा, माइक ऑफ कर दीजिएगा और वॉल्यूम बढ़ा दीजिए। मैं कर दूं?
Okay. अभी चरणजीत से मांगे।
Technology has really become perfect as well. बंदी कर दीजिए। वीडियो तो आएगा नहीं मेरा। अच्छा बैकग्राउंड चेंज करना था।
अब तो आ रहे हैं।
हेलो।
Yes, get here.
कॉफी सबके लिए कॉफी।
हेलो। प्लीज कनेक्ट। इंटरनेट कनेक्शन अनस्टेबल एक्चुअली ये दिक्कत आ रही है।
उसी पे सारे इंटरनेट है ना,
फर्क नहीं
नहीं पड़ता।
हाँ हो गया कनेक्ट। I'll stop my video. I'll leave this.
सुनते का आवाज पूरी आ रही थी, वो क्यों चला गया? अभी तक पता नहीं, रिजल्ट आया नहीं, रिजल्ट नहीं आया। आशीष से पूछ लो, आशीष से पूछ लो, आशीष से पूछ लो, वहाँ पे नहीं है तो यहाँ पे आके पूछ लो।
होस्ट बना दिया ना।
हेलो हेलो
Yes, sir. We can hear.
आशीष जी, I have joined.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome.
Yeah. Mathur sir, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear.
हाँ जी, good evening everybody.
Good evening. Good evening.
How are you?
ठीक है वीडियो छोड़ देता हूँ। हेलो। You can hear everyone.
आवाज तो
रिंग बन गया।
Yeah.
Yeah.
Internet's slow. ठीक है, chairperson committee. Perfect. चलिए कर दिया.
पूरा फेस नहीं आ रहा है.
जी साहब,
Yeah.
पूछ उसको।
रोहित इसको
Confirm कर दो।
Sir, आप start. Greetings to all the viewers at this time. And welcoming you all to this webinar on
Video नहीं आ रहा, चलेगा.
architectural design services.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of the Northern Chapter, the Indian Institute of Architects, I welcome you all on the first event of most of the professionals today. The profession today is actually being controlled by what the EPC mode of public procurement is being followed. So I will hand over the proceedings to our host, who's the chairman of our convener of our committee, which is looking after this matter, Sudipta Sinha.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having a very fruitful session. As a commitment towards working for the empowerment of the profession and towards the betterment of a built environment and nation building, the committee was formulated by the IINC to investigate, discuss, and debate agendas that impact the profession. With the permission of the chairman, IINC, we are pleased and excited to initiate this dialogue with our chapter's first event that's been curated, primarily to look at the EPC contracts. Amongst us, we have some very prominent people from the fraternity, from the building construction industry, and we've taken care to invite people from various stakeholder positions as well. I'll be introducing you to them very soon. In the meantime, this particular program is organized in a way that we cover certain topics, and the topics are as follows. Could I have the topics on the screen? The other slide, please. Yeah. So we intend to understand what the EPC contract is, how the architect is engaged in such a contract. We'll be discussing various hiring terminologies, terms, etc., the advantages and disadvantages of such a procurement system, its ramifications on the profession of architecture, and the quality of the built environment, and finally terminated with a discussion. I'm happy to welcome our moderator, Professor Manoj Mathur. There's little I can say about him because the world knows him, but he's an architect, a professor. He graduated from the School of Planning and Architecture, and soon after his practice, he started the firm called Studio Plus. Later, he was the founder and principal of the firm Mathur and Kapre Associates, which has a portfolio of important public projects to its credit. He started teaching as a hobby in 1984 and in 1990 joined the permanent faculty at SPA, his alma mater, where he headed the departments of architecture, industrial design, and urban design in various tenures. Thank you, Professor Mathur, for acknowledging this very important issue and accepting to moderate a fantastic panel. Our panel has three eminent people: Professor Charanjit Shah, Engineer Iftikhar A. Drabu, and Architect Navneet Kumar. I'll start with Engineer Iftikhar. He's a civil engineer by qualification with a master's in construction management, has nearly 4 decades of experience in the construction industry, both in projects in India as well as abroad. He specializes in project management and contract management. He has worked on some of the first mega EPC hydropower projects in the country. He has a good understanding of the FIDIC contracts. Hailing from Srinagar, Kashmir, he is currently working for WSP as head of their Nordics Design Center and based in Noida. Thank you for joining us, sir. Next on the panel is Professor Charanjit Shah. Professor Charanjit Shah is an eminent name in the field of architecture and is also known for his planning and infrastructure expertise with over 5 decades of successful experience. He's an author, scholar, educationist, teacher, art and architecture critique, practicing sustainable green architecture. He is adorably called as the Airport King. Recently, his works and legacy of the past 50 years have been published in the National Monthly Architecture Plus Design December issue. Professor Shah has also successfully initiated Smart Habitat Foundation, a center of excellence in the pursuit of art and architecture, urban planning, transport, and infrastructure. Thank you so much for joining us in this discussion, sir, today. We look forward to your contributions. Finally, we have Architect Navneet Kumar, a very important keystone in this entire discussion, as he brings the perspective from the government side. Architect Navneet Kumar is an architect by qualification and an alumnus of Chandigarh College of Architecture. He has served in the government for nearly 4 decades in various departments and retired as the Additional Director General of CPWD Delhi. He was a member of the COA and the Indian Building Congress. Throughout his career, he has held pivotal positions, including the chairman of Central Vista Committee, Secretary Delhi Urban Arts Commission, Member Secretary Heritage and Conservation Committee, Additional Director General in CPWD, Western Region as well as Western Region, Delhi, and is on the panel of Board of Assessors of PWD, CPWD, MCI, NBCC, to name a few. Thank you so much for sparing time and joining us in this discussion, sir. And one of the most important people who's really contributed in having this panel set up, and I'd like to thank Professor V.K. Paul, who set this up for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhitya.
Moderator, sir, I leave the panel to you.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and that's the cue for me to start this discussion, which is on this topic, which has been agitating architects all over the country for quite some time now, ever since it was down as part of the policy that all government projects will now be done on EPC mode. So today, the menu for today's discussion is, first of all, to understand what is EPC mode and what is really different about it from an architectural project contract, as we all know and have been regularly practicing. What is the departure from that standard way of working in an EPC contract? Then we will come to understand what are the advantages and disadvantages to the various stakeholders? That is the owner, the client, the designer, architects, the consultants, and finally the person who's going to build it, which is the contractor. And in between all of this, there is the project which is to be managed. So there is most likely a project manager as well. So all of these different stakeholders, how do they see this EPC mode of contracting? What are the ramifications of this mode for the architecture profession? So in terms of how architects are trained and how they have been brought up to understand their responsibilities and their role in building projects, how does it affect that? Does it remain the same? Does it change? Is there a need to understand the change? Is there a need to recalibrate our role? All of these are issues which we will bring up today. And then we will also discuss the much bigger picture, which is that with this kind of way of working, in which architects have to produce designs of buildings, what does it do to the overall environment? How does it affect that? Does the quality of the environment, the quality of the built environment, the quality of the buildings, the quality of our cities, is it likely to become better because of this new way of working? Or is it likely to be affected in a negative way because of the new role and the change in responsibilities that is brought about by the EPC contracts? So it is an opening up of the discussion on this subject, which is obviously not going to be settled in just one meeting. So our plan is to have a series of such meetings. And in this first one, we will just be opening this subject, all its various dimensions, to understand how architects, the profession, and the outcome of what architects do, which is the environment, how all of these things get affected. So without further ado, I will just start off. I will request Engineer Iftikhar A. Rabu to please give us a brief introduction to EPC contracts. So all of you, some of you already know what is EPC and probably have been affected by it. And there may be others who are not into it as yet and maybe waiting to get some projects to the EPC mode. So let's try and understand from Rabu sir what this EPC is all about. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. EPC is as you mentioned, it's a form of procurement. It's a form of contract in which the onus for design, or responsibility for design of the facility lies with the contractor. So if you look at EPC, it's coming from FIDIC, Federation of International Design Consultants, who have put it as EPC, E for engineering, which is the design or the architectural part of it. Then you have the procurement, so you get procurement or you get contracts, let out contracts to different specialist agencies, and then you build the whole thing, and that's the concept for it. Engineering, procurement, and construction. So when you look at it, so in this kind of a contract, the onus, the responsibility is taken by a single agency. It could be a contractor, it could be a consortium of contractors. They take the full responsibility right from investigations till the commission. Historically, if you see most of our contracts have been done, if we classify them into commercial types, they're all measurable contracts or lump sum contracts, where you have bill of quantity or you have a lump sum contract. But in both of those, the design is provided by the owner. The owner engages the architect in turn engages the services specialist, the structural engineer, and then the contractor delivers to the design prepared or delivered by the owner's consultants. In the case of this type of contract, the owner simply provides a very basic feasible design And that is developed and optimized, with innovations or costings and all. And the contractor then takes the full responsibility of developing that design. So that is essentially the main difference. And this is actually ABC came from the fact that you had an item rate contract with a lump sum contract where the owner provided the design. But for some specialist components of the project, you would go for a design and build. This was not a full project, it was just a certain elements of the project. You would go and get some specialist agencies who specialize in process industry, cement plant industry, hydropower. And typically, if you see from hydropower perspective, there's a generator turbines. Now, you would get some specialist agency who manufactures generator turbines, telling them that this is the head, this much water is available. Now, give me a turbine which will generate, give me a generator which will generate so much electricity. So that would then blend with the design of the rest of the components of the project and go on from there. So then it was a mix of the traditional contract plus the design engineering. Now this they have then combined, fully combined in mid-90s and called it the turnkey contract or the EPC, wherein the complete responsibility of getting these specialist agencies and the design was to them.
So, you just mentioned this term FIDIC. Can you just,
FIDIC it's more than 100-year-old organization based on the Switzerland.
okay,
This is it's a French term. It's basically the Federation of International Consulting Engineers. Roughly, I mean, I'm not very sure, but probably more than 80% of the international contracts for infrastructure projects are based on FIDIC.
all right.
FIDIC has the different types of contracts. It has, for example, they call it the red book, which is a typical item rate contract. Then you have the yellow book. Now this EPC is called the silver book.
The silver book.
The silver book. Then they had there was an EPC before EPC for the turnkey. That was called an orange book. Then they have consulting contracts also. Then they have different types of contracts for short works, below, I don't know, $500,000. So they have a series of procurement, and most of these multilateral funding agencies, they prefer to go FIDIC, in which, like whether it's ADB, World Bank, African Development Bank, or some of these overseas government agencies, they prefer FIDIC type of funding. It's a very premium organization of consulting engineers.
So, that means to say that the form of the contract is really something which is universal in all countries.
Yes.
Could be followed.
It is to a large extent, but they do allow, they have very simple, there are certain things which cannot be changed. They are the general conditions of the contract. Then they have a special condition, which you can tweak depending on the requirement of the project or the area in which you operate. But essentially, the essence of the contract is the engineer used to be historically neutral. He was supposed to be a judge kind of thing, He had the full powers, but now the latest person which came in 1999, he is supposed to be an employee of the owner. But he takes all the decisions on behalf of the owner. The owner simply, there's a tripartite contract between the contractor, the owner, and the engineer. But the actual administration of the contract is between the engineer and the contractor. And he determines the payments, and the owner pays the payment. There are some restrictions which he has. He cannot give extension of time. He cannot fix rates. He cannot give variations unless the rest is fully empowered. It's coming in that respect.
So basically, in this, actually, it gets colored, I think, by the fact that there is the big E, which is engineering. So the kind of projects which you mentioned, about they were more like infrastructure projects or machinery projects in which putting the performance specification down, I would say, was relatively easier. And thereafter, for the contractor to meet those specifications by any which way the contractor may like to do, would be entirely left to the contractor. And accordingly, the contractor could bid whatever way they thought would be the lowest for them.
Exactly. I think this is the crux of this whole thing, is the performance criteria.
Right.
Because these are pure engineering projects where there is one basic feasibility. You are actually knowing what you want.
Yeah.
So much of water will be available. It has to be treated by this particular process. And I wanted treated water so many Q6 to be delivered. And and the quality of the water is defined, so you can do this. So it's very, very clear, pure engineering, 2 and 2 is 4, there is no.
So in more or less, it's like a question in a question paper, that's put down there that, this is our question. And then finding the answer, or let's say the engineering design is part of the contractors.
The part, and
responsibility.
basic feasible design is given by him, by the owner, a very high level design. But the whole idea was that the contractor might optimize it, might have different ways, he might provide or put more money into it so that the cost of construction is reduced. It also goes to the fact that the contractor may have certain that equipment already available with him, which will make it if he has forward of the same size. So we try to optimize on that, and by virtue of that, and typically we used to do it in bridge projects. But forward.
Right, so we see this happening in Delhi in all the flyovers and in all the, metro viaducts. And all
Because the
that.
loading is defined,
Yes.
the width of the carriageway is defined, the tubes for carrying the services is defined. So within that, you deal with the design. So we optimize it on this. So some people might, the clearance is defined. You might be playing a little bit here and there and optimizing it.
Right, at this point, it's very interesting. At this point, I would like to bring in architect Navneet Kumar. Navneet ji, where is the architect in all this? So what Iftikhar ji just defined is actually engineering design. It's basically there.
FIDIC and this EPC has come from FIDIC.
Yes.
This has been adopted world over for infrastructure projects.
Correct.
In India, it was practiced in railways, highways, and all these things. It was never into building projects. The first time now this NITI Aayog has come up with the idea because they wanted a huge construction to be done in the country, and that too they said we have failed by normal way of construction. So since this particular system has been substantially okay, so they said why not EPC for building projects as well. The idea is to have a lot of massive construction in the area with this kind of system where you have only one man accountable. Government thought it will be done speedily and within overnight we can do.
Single point
Yeah,
responsibility.
right.
So in this, in a building project, for example, in a building project, right? So how does this apply into a building project? I mean, if the question is of giving the specifications, now in a building project, giving specifications means a lot of work before the project goes into EPC.
Initial work, even in EPC contract is being done by the owner or architect on behalf of the owner.
Okay.
Initial work is done by the architect only. He will prepare lump sum contract, he will prepare basic specifications, items and design. And then pass it on to EPC contractor. And EPC contractor can modify those specifications to suit his needs. He can even innovate on technical new technologies. He can come up with new ideas just to optimize the cost and the design.
So it's like saying that this is okay, this is your design.
Yeah.
Now, just let me give you a absolutely different way of doing it, which will be cheaper, something like that. Okay. So there is a whole lot of work you are saying that has to be then done before it goes to EPC.
Not about.
Okay, okay. So
And
right.
you see, I tell you, in India, what I have seen is, rather I have witnessed in most of the bigger projects, everywhere client said, I need iconic structures. I need whatever I want.
Yes.
In that case, we are not able to go for full EPC mode, Then he says you open the consultant. Then he would like to deal with the designer on his own, which in EPC he cannot. So in all IITs, IIMs, NITs, universities, I've seen in all the cases, you see, they want iconic structures and everywhere director says, no, I will appoint architect. So initially they have been appointing architect or they have now given the role to government that you want architect on their behalf. You see, architect consultant is appointed by the client, then he does everything and then after the NIT is ready by the consultant, then it passed it on to EPC.
So that's a ray of hope, viewers. I hope you listened into that. So there is this opportunity to actually do some good design before it actually is handed over to the EPC contractor. In this, I just want to know, so you can also, maybe you can give your opinion on this one. Is that after the project is sent into EPC mode, like Navneet just said about, some specifications, some basic design is there, and maybe even a lump sum contract has been made. And after that, it goes to the EPC contractor, and the contractor then has to bid on that. Now, after that, is there any role for this designer architect who initially designed this project? And does that person have any say in the matter as to what
In this
is
case,
done?
no, in this case, no.
No?
Then he will appoint his own architect. He will have his own design.
Okay.
He may or may not follow this design.
Is that so?
Yeah, you see, EPC contractor is supposed to give his own concept. Look, this is how I will work. He will of course follow whatever is given to him. Then he will have his own technology, own system, own design. He says, I will give you this, and this is my rate. Then there is a competition among lot many people, and see, we find the cost comes down drastically. Everybody comes up with new ideas, new techniques, new technologies, and everybody is free.
Fundamentally, there's a difference. In engineering, any engineer, who works similar, they'll come back with similar design. In architecture, you also talk about iconic structures. Now the contractor will try, or this agency will try to minimize. If he's not going to adopt, and when we say the design is given by the owner, the initial architect. So what do we mean by that? The layout is given by him, the elevations are given by him.
No, because it is a lump sum. You see, in the lump sum, we fix the quantities, specifications, group of items, and that is what is given, the basic plans.
But if you squeeze, typically if you squeeze the size of the rooms or the corridors, or compromises on some other.
No, you see, the total area is fixed in that you have to give a building, say, 50,000.
There's an area, there's a fixed area. Okay. Okay. This is interesting. This is very interesting. So here is really what is going to be the pain for the architects, is that there is a design which involves a lot of thinking, lot of conceptualization to bring to a point where it can actually start looking like a buildable building. And once it reaches that stage, once it actually becomes buildable and is put into an EPC contract, then that only the part that it is visible, or rather it is buildable, that is only the one which remains operative. And the contractor is at liberty to change the design. Contractor is liberty to do things differently, provided some very basic fundamental things are sacrosanct, which is like the plinth area, for example. So the plinth area, or the total area, or maybe the total quantities of certain items, only those things remain fixed, and apart from that, all of the other things are liable to get changed, because the contractor wants to give a lower bid, and therefore wants to reduce the costs of various things which are involved. Okay.
I think there would be
So,
there would be an element which you have to
yes.
decide.
So you can have the poll 2 at this time. We are poll 1. So we are having simultaneously, this is an interesting thing which is going on. Please participate in this. We are going to give you polls to give your opinion on. And at the end of this session, we will have some interesting results, and we will try and share them with you. So this has just come out that yes, there will be a design, there will be an architect employed, and the architect will do all the hard work, and the architect will do everything to satisfy what the client's initial requirements are. The desires of the client will be met. But after that, the architect who initially did the concept need not have anything to do with what will actually come out. So the big question then will be whether the building and the architect can eventually be related to each other. Can we say that this building was designed by this architect? That's the biggest question. So in this, obviously nothing is done if it is not of some use. So what is the use of a contract like this, in which we don't really know who is going to actually deliver what we wanted? Okay, so Navneet, who's gaining?
In public projects, it is not only the architect which matters or see there are Ministry of Finance guidelines, there are Ministry of Law guidelines. Supposing for one particular proposal, one contractor says on EPC mode, I will give you this much of square meter of area with these specifications at this rate with this amount. Other fellow says, no, I will go other technology, but I will give you this much less rates.
Okay.
Then Ministry of Finance guidelines will say, you see, you are getting the same thing, same area at this rate. Why can you, how can you, see, Lord Dhawan to this fellow who is bidding much more? So
it
all
is-
these things are seen.
Okay.
It is not only quality of architecture.
So
It
yes.
is we people now, because today we gathered here, they have to now see deliberate the issue and then set the ball rolling today. And then we have to take it further than whatever we think we can do.
Yeah, so this is a very interesting issue. It's like, yes, very important that we talk about the finance ministry coming in, which is very good. They would like to have the,
See, government
price
have
discovery.
two issues, government had two issues. Number one, they said we want to construct so many buildings, so much infrastructure in a stipulated period. That is not possible in Bangalore style of country because architect is appointed, then architect will appoint somebody else and contractor, blah, blah, blah. Multiplicity of decision makings and payment schedules and next of lot of issues. With the result, no project is completed well at that time.
Okay.
So in this government expected that because infrastructure project they have been completed in time in a much less cost. This is what government thought of. Highways. All the highways were made. There is no architect. Immediately. And NHAI is given the best award internationally for highway construction. Isn't it? Even the railways we have advanced so much. All this is because of EPC contract. This is what. But at the same time, we say that EPC contract is not applicable to building projects. This is what we have to highlight.
Okay.
We have to start on this and then conclude somewhere down the line that for EPC is not suitable for building.
Okay, so the results of the first poll are in, and very heartening that to question number 2, we have a very high percentage, 56% of the responses are for actually working on such projects. So that's really a forward-looking architects community, I think, that everyone is really hoping that you will be working on projects like this. And at the same time, okay, so the question number 3, we have very close neck and neck. Do you think EPC is suitable for building projects? And while 50% have very clearly said no, there are 6% maybes and 44% have actually said yes. All right. So clearly there are advantages which people are seeing, and by as we go forward, we will come to that. So let me just ask Raghu Sam. Abhi, Navneet ji just told us. He just said, sometimes you actually get the projects done at lower cost, and he cited the example of highways and railways and so on. Aapko kya lagta hai? What is your experience on this? I mean, is it generally the case, or it could vary either way? It could go higher also. Does that ever happen?
Yeah, I mean, historically, if you see, EPC contracts are certainly more expensive.
They're more expensive.
They are universally seen as more expensive. Because the owner's responsibility lies with the contractor. So he keeps on building the risk factor. And if there's any element of underground works in it, it will be even more.
The
I have seen-
uncertainty.
Yes. The uncertainty, the risk, because you don't want to pay for it. The price is that risk,
Mhm.
and that increases the cost. But I have seen projects which have been 300 times more expensive.
Purely on account of this fact that there would be
Because
some.
he takes all the, these are not typical building projects, they were underground works projects, like hydropower,
Okay.
where you do a dam, you do tunnels, you do powerhouse cavern, you do huge underground structures there. So he wasn't sure of the geology. And he priced it into it, and they were 3 times more expensive than contemporary projects.
We just saw something happen in Uttarakhand.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm sure, I don't know how much the insurance will cover the contractor on this, so surely if it was an EPC contract.
But it's a given university that they are more expensive.
Okay, okay. So they could be more expensive. So then if it is going to be more expensive, then what is really the attractiveness for the owner?
So, see, I mean, look at it, typically the EPC contracts were delivered for let's say developers. Now, go back 20 years, we didn't have private developers, infrastructure projects. We didn't have an organization. They didn't understand the business.
Okay.
So they are happy to pay the price and get done.
Okay.
Typically, a road project, I don't know what it would be and who engineer to trust. I mean, it's in such a remote area, who will monitor it, how will the quality control? So the thing was, you do a tender, you go to the bank looks at Mr. X, you have no experience in infrastructure. I can't trust you with my money. No, the bankability was the factor. I don't know whether you will be able to deliver. You know infrastructure, you've never done anything like this. This is completely alien for you. So they would say, okay, now give me an EPC contract, because at least you have a reputed contractor who has tied up a contract. So the bankability was improved. The man doesn't have to think, he's doing a one-off project. Now, why should I set up a whole organization? He will never get people. If there's a one person, like I set up a hydropower plant and with just one, nobody will come and join me, because 4 years down the line, I'll be without, maybe without a job. So that is how they say, okay, let's do one, get this agency. They take all the responsibility. I sign the checks on the dotted date. I'll come over, get the keys, press the button, and go down the list. So that's how it has actually developed. And you have a certain commitment to cost. Now, you can't historically, the architect didn't give me the drawing, the admission was not like this. So here it's all your problem. I don't care. This is the cost, this is the date, that's the benefit. I am ready to pay extra cost, but I buy insurance, which I help you with actually. That's it.
So it is kind of accepted fact that somewhere along the line you'll have to pay for all these at once.
Yes. Yeah, it is mostly accepted that PPC contracts are seen, and the more the risk element it is, then they are advised not to go for EPC, because the contract will,
Price
price
will be
is-
jacked.
yes, very expensive.
So, can we roll the next poll, please? So, that's very interesting. So here is the let's say the core systemic advantage is that you keep your own in-house organization lean, and you don't actually spend the money on doing so much work in-house. But you know that it's got to be done somewhere by someone, and you're willing to pay that price as an overhead to the project cost. So that is probably built into the contractor's cost, because the contractor there is actually taking on a lot of work which otherwise the owner or the client would have done by themselves, or would have got it done from some other agency. So yeah, I think that makes it very, very clear as to why an owner would like to go for this, and the government at this point of time is keen to do a lot of work. A lot of work is on the anvil. It's about to happen. A lot of work is already on, and therefore this model was suggested by NITI Aayog to do all the government projects. As we just heard a few minutes ago, that the architect's role is now really split into two. Okay, so we have the architect coming in at the beginning of the project to, in a way, describe the project. The architect makes the concept and puts in some specifications, and more than anything else, wins the approval of the client. Yes, that this is the building which you need, and the client says, okay, done, yeah, this is what we would like to have. That is one part of the role. And then there's the second part of the role, which is that another architect will come in later to do all the detailing of that project. Okay, and maybe to work out alternatives of the first design in order to say that something else which is similar can be done at a lower cost. So there is really the entire role of the architect is now cleaved. It is split into two halves. One is pre-award of EPC and the other is post-award of EPC. So at this point of time, very opportune for bringing in Professor Charanjit Singh Shah, who has done a lot for India's infrastructure. Okay, and in all of these projects, we have seen a lot of innovation, a lot of things being done for the first time, a lot of things which have, I would say, given a nice shine to India's image. Certainly, airports are very important, and they make up the image of the city, make up the image of the state, and they hold up the image of the country. And those are the kind of projects which Professor Shah has given to us. And I would like to just ask him that this split of the role of one architect doing the concept of the design of, in a way, dreaming up the project. So one architect does the dream part, and the other architect actually fructifies the dream. So in between, is there something which is lost in the translation? Is there something which is lost when the idea of one architect is actually now the responsibility of another architect to make it real? And in this process, does the essence of the design, the beauty, the concept, the appropriateness of the design, does it remain intact? What do you think? Would it actually work out that architects between themselves are so good at taking another person's idea and then carrying it forward into fruition in the completed building? What is your opinion, sir?
Thank you, Mathur Saab. I mean, I would say that it's a very, very interesting topic to be discussed.
We cannot hear you.
I rather take it like that, it's like, one child with two mothers. Can you hear me? Can you
So
hear
we
me?
cannot hear you.
So your volume is low.
So please increase your volume.
Okay. It's like in like two mothers for one child. If you talk about it's because every building for an architect is like the child, and it's like motherhood, and you conceive a building, and
Cannot hear
conceiving
you,
a
sir.
building is very
Sir, we
important.
cannot hear you.
नहीं इस पे आ गई है लोगों को सुनाई दे रही है
Okay, I'll just a minute.
Can hear in this?
या
Volume नहीं आ रहा, नहीं आ रहा.
Now,
Can you hear?
Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, now we can hear. Yes, sir, please.
Yeah.
Please proceed.
It's okay?
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir.
You know, I was just telling that it's like
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir, we can hear you. Yes, sir, please. Please proceed. Yes, sir, yes.
Okay now? Engineering. I was just engineering base, it rightly said, very comfortably to run an infrastructure project.
It's lost his internet.
If you can switch off his video, we can improve that.
Is it okay now?
Yes, sir, please. We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
वो कर रहा है सर, उनके एंड से कनेक्शन की प्रॉब्लम है. So you can
Hello?
continue.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Is it okay?
Yes, sir, it is
Is it
okay.
okay now?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's some problem. You know, I was just narrating, I'm not very pessimistic, but let's be very optimistic on this. But this mode of EPC should be only for the infrastructure projects in terms of highways or flyovers, where it is only engineering. But when it comes to architecture, architecture is actually with soul. It is soul in building, and any build mass cannot be treated as a mass of brick and concrete. It has to be like a living organism. So once you talk about ownership, every building is owned by an architect, and he actually owns it. And there, it cannot be, two mothers for a child. And the perception has to be very clear. So I would rather say, because we've done many projects in EPC, one side, from the contractor side, from the client side, and also done design and construction. But the type of liberty is there when it is like design and construction. And whereas when you talk about the EPC mode, it is more mechanical and industrial. You talk about structure, you talk about MEP, you give the parameters, maybe that I would wish to have some sort of a heights and other things within a parameters of a building, and which absolutely changes when the second person comes. And probably I would also say that when it comes to EPC with a basic design by the client, and then comes to the second stage of execution, maybe there's one architect or not an architect, an in-house architect with an MEP consultant, and then you have another structure consultant. So it's like structure separate, MEP separate, and an architecture role is limited to only an interface between all the agencies, and making an interface between all those put together and make a GFC or make a shop drawing. That is different. So it's like commercializing the whole building is not an industry. Build form has to looked upon as part of the environment, and environmental things can be need some sort of a sensitivity and cannot be absolutely commercial. The purpose of EPC mode, why it came, I think it came because maybe one is the finance, the cost, and second is the time. So these are the two things. One is the time management, and other I would say is the financial management, which probably was taking more time and more money in getting the whole thing done up at the initial stage. That was what, so I mean, there can be a role between the architect and the PMC, but the architectural role in any building has to be in one, and that is that I only have one architectural design. And the first parameter where Mr. Navneet has said that, EPC is where the contractor will make the design, will make everything put together and bid. So there, when the design and the bid is together, there it is only the financial aspect, is a financial bidding, but not the emotional bidding and not the visual bidding and not the environmental bidding. So that are the parameters. And then what is happening is that we are trying to get hold of industrialization into the building, and then they become like a, one to another. Repetitive works can be done in EPC mode, but intellectual works and where you have that sort of intellectual quality of work cannot be done in EPC mode. That is what I feel as a very emotional architect, that, this model perhaps needs to be revisited, where we say that, yes, how the independent evolution of design perhaps will be missing in EPC mode. So this is what I say, Mr. Mathur, and I am very sensitive to EPC mode, and I've seen many projects where EPC has become like a mechanical thing. I agree with our friend, Mr. Darabu, that, the whole thing could be managed. If I need to make a flyover, I need to make a, highway, I need to make many more things together, which are more engineeringly, dominated. But architect, the building is more architecturally dominated. So the architect need to be into the command, and he needs to have the leadership for that work. That is what I think.
Very, very well put, sir. I mean, the idea of the building having a soul, I think it describes all of it. The building not being just, as you say, it's not just the flesh and bones. There is something which gives it the life. It is not just bricks and stones and the materials. So actually characterizing an architectural project purely in terms of the materials which go into it is kind of missing the point completely, because the building has to actually live along with the people who will use it. I mean, they have to also be part of that building. The building must be part of their lives. So the idea that the building is really a living thing, something which actually has, it's something which is a progenitor of and a recipient of emotions in people, which possibly infrastructure projects, do not give rise to such emotions, but buildings certainly do. And if we are going to be treating buildings only as, materials, then who brings in that aspect?
I'll just add another this thing, if you go back to history and
Right.
see any of the innovative buildings, maybe it is Hall of Nation, Hall of Industry, or any other building, these are architecturally, engineeringly dominated structures where there's an interface between the architect, engineer, and also the MEP consultant put together under one umbrella as architect as a team leader, and the innovation started. But once we've started playing in isolation, the innovation not be there. It is only the economics which are going to walk in. Who is the cheapest? How you're making it more cheaper? So when we start looking at the cheapest, then it means that we are not looking at the quality. So two things which are missing in EPC is, one is the quality and the design, which probably are missing in any of the EPC mode because they are becoming more mechanical. And lastly, I would say that, as architecture has been said, architecture is mother of all arts, but architecture perhaps cannot become the father of all science in technology, project management, and financial management put together. So it's like grooming a baby, it's like chef. Two chefs cannot make one dish. So one chef will be there to make one dish, then only he can let me know what are the various constituents of this building. So the leadership, the chef, or the mother has to be one, but not more. So that is the intake, I would rather put it. Let's see that how we can really redefine the EPC mode in a manner where the conceptual design is predominantly put in a very stronger node, and probably who's the professional advisor who is making the EPC contract or the design at the initial stage. It has to be in a larger platform where the concept which is adopted has to be channelized professionally in a very healthy way in a design competition. So once we adopt that, then the quality of design will come. Otherwise, it will become mechanical, Who is the lowest? Okay, he gets it, So always the financial aspect, when you talk about the lowest, the quality of the financial competence will also become the lower. So that is what is happening.
Even due respects to both of the professors. I'm sorry, I also.
He has a dissenting note.
All public projects, EPC contracts now are the order of the day. We like it or we don't like it, we have to do it.
So they are here to stay.
Okay, now, you see, our role is now what to do in the present situation. How to take the profession of architecture, the civil engineers, the MEP engineers along with us in a way so that we can play a vital role as we play a role.
Okay.
It is, I'm talking about only public.
Public.
Privately, everybody can do anything.
Yeah.
For public projects, government has now accepted.
Right.
There are not many reasons, I can go to some of them, because government now doesn't want to take this business. That they said we will do only governance. Then government also depend more on the private sector for all this business, not on the government sector.
Okay.
There are other issues.
That's a very important point.
And the beginning, they have already started on infrastructure project, which has given very spectacular results. See, as we've been discussing, all these things they have given, because if you make highways in a normal way, it will never be done. We have done so much of highways in the last 3 years, that we were not even thought of. Railways was to be upgraded. See, you given from EPC contracts and railways have come on that. As he rightly said, it is ideal for a repetitive work, or it is ideal for these kind of things. Even for MES project, let's say, it may be good. But even in our case, for even the general good housing, etc., it may be good. But that does not we have to decide. Government has already decided.
So we have to start just curiosity. We were talking of railways and things like that. So do you think railways, which is now into station redevelopment, for example? So is that something which is good for that kind of project? Or good or bad?
Okay. See, my question is, we have to accept this as the order of the day.
Okay.
And now discussion should start how to proceed, how to take it further for our interests.
That's very pragmatic. That's a very pragmatic approach. Yeah.
EPC contract has been accepted. There's nothing to say about it. We have to show our concerns. We have concerns. as Professor Jamil said, we have a lot of concerns. You also pointed out a lot of concerns. Now, what to do? This forum to start today, what to do now?
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So basically what Navneet ji is,
I'm sorry,
no, perfectly all right. This is the kind of, what can we say, reality check we all need. So the reality check here is that the mode of contracting is in a way, it's here to stay, the EPC. And some of our viewers have said that why not AEPC? So why just limited to engineering? Let's add architecture too. So the architecture is also something which is to be done in the same way as the engineering would be done. So that means something which we need to accept and move forward. This is what Navneet ji has, very, very sweetly he has done the whole tenor of our discussion today. Which basically means that, this being the situation now. What do we do going forward?
इसी तो बैठे हैं ना, अगर ये नहीं
What do we
होती,
do going forward?
अगर जैसे प्रोफेसर साहब ने कहा अगर वो चीजें होती तो
We would not be
Yes,
there would be no discussion. There would be no discussion here today. So very good. So I think we are coming close to our closing time. So I would just say that it has been a wonderful evening. It has clarified for me. It has clarified a lot of things in terms of what really happens, and I would say that it has in some way given me a ray of hope. I hope all of you are also in certain mood of positivity. All is not lost, but it could be worse. That is also there. And now is the time that we have to come forward to figure out how is it that we are going to do the EPC for architectural work. So that is really the game going forward. It is really not the same as EPC for infrastructure or roads or bridges. It has to be different for building because buildings are different from roads and infrastructure and bridges. So how should this EPC mode, how do we tweak it? What are the, the conditions? What are the small and very, very crucial aspects that we need to start considering in projects, building projects, architectural projects, which for all, for all that we may have our misgivings, it is going to be in EPC mode. Now,
how to go about it?
Yeah.
First step I will say is towards this would be to work out necessary provisions which will ensure just and judicious method of appointment of selection of consultant.
Okay, yes.
दूसरा, how he can perform his role to the society for which he is meant. चीजों को how to incorporate these things in a tender of public buildings, so that these things are incorporated in the building to our level of thoughts as we are thinking of. ये सोचना पड़ेगा. इसमें हमें ग्लोबली क्या क्या होता है वो भी देखना पड़ेगा. Then इसमें fee structure भी आज जो हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, next level of thought will be कि fee structure को कैसे रेगुलेट करोगे. I'm sorry to tell you, मुझे ज्यादा नहीं है बट आपको ज्यादा होगा. फी स्ट्रक्चर जब हम किसी ईपीसी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट में कोट करते हैं तो कितनी लो जाती है दैट वी नो बेटर देन. तो वो फी स्ट्रक्चर को भी कैसे रेगुलेट करना है ये भी हमें सोचने की बात है ना. फिर डिलीवरी रिलेशंस क्या है, हमने क्या क्या देना है, क्या क्या हमारी ड्यूटीज हैं. अगर हम आधे % पे काम करेंगे तो हम देंगे भी नहीं कुछ उसके मतलब. राइट, ठीक है ना. हम भी फिर स्केच देके चलो जी आगे हो तो होगा. तो हमें भी क्या क्या देना है, इसकी कैसे लेनी है, इसको सारे को एक सिस्टम में कैसे इंटरवोव करना है ताकि थिंग्स शुड बी फॉर आर्किटेक्ट्स एंड इंजीनियर इट शुड बी इंटरवोवन प्रॉपर्ली. राइट, मतलब ये आज के वाइज मैन आर टुगेदर. दिस इज हाउ वी हैव टू स्टार्ट फर्दर ऑन द इशू और टू गो एक इशू लेके इस फोरम में मे बी सम अदर चैप्टर्स और बिगर उसी ये हमें हम आग लगानी है सारे जगह,
Right.
सब जगह से फिर लेकर के then we have to concise the document, go to the government, look, this is what we want, and this is EPC we say we accepted, but this is the changes we want to incorporate
Right.
to make architectural services fit for the EPC consultant. This is what should have been the job of this
Yes.
wise man group.
Yes. Navneet, you cannot exclude yourself from the wise men group. I am the moderator. You are all the wise men. So very nicely put here. So you've really given us the exact, points for consideration. And I would like all our viewers at this time, like he said, sorry, aag laga denge. I mean, we have to light the fire in all the architects to start churning their brains as to how we need to improve the EPC contract, the standard model, which, as I just learned today, is something which is being devised by the FIDIC, and it's applicable in all countries. In India also, most of it is based on FIDIC. And today we are talking about that being applied to architecture. So how does it need to be improved so that it is good for us? And he given very important points, 3 very important points. Number 1, the mechanism for appointment of the architectural consultant and engineering consultant. How do you select the best person to do the job? That requires a lot of thinking. Then what is the fee to be paid? And what is the fee to be asked for? More than what to be paid, what is the fee to be asked for? Let us understand the value of what we do. Let's understand not just what it's going to cost us. Let us understand what is the value of the contribution we make into this whole effort. And most importantly, I would say most importantly, is what do we deliver? What do we actually do to earn that money? So if the government, now we know what the government is really interested in. Now we know that the government, all it wants is that it has a commitment to the public to give them something by way of a building. And that is something which has to be given to the public at a committed cost and in committed time. And definitely it must serve the purpose for which it is being made. That is what the government is interested in. Let us understand this is what the government wants. This is what the client wants. So to do that, what all we need to do, let us bring it on the table. Let us bring what all is the effort which has to be put in to get that result. So the deliverables become so important in all this. So with this, I would just like to open our session to questions which the audience may have. So please, we can begin with that.
Raise hands and we'll unmute them.
They're going to put the questions in the chat box.
No, they are going to ask, I'm unmuting them.
Okay.
Can I start, Rohit?
Fees wise, you will be generously compensated.
Is that so?
Rohit, can I start?
Fees
Or-
wise, we'll check it. You will have full success.
Sure, Samir.
Can the panelists hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think now it has been a very interesting session for, I think, all of us to have an understanding, a better understanding what EPC contracts are all about. And as Professor Shah very rightly put it, the soul of architecture is missing. The art and engineering, what architecture is, the art is missing and the engineering remains. Even if we appoint an architect at the concept level, the problem remains that all specifications cannot be laid out right at the beginning. And the sole aim of the EPC contractor, the person who has taken up the turnkey project, is to save money. We are involved in one such project, and every day the fight is the contractor wants that each and every specification, anywhere that we can save money, should be done. It's a good thing for the project, but it goes on to extend to sacrificing design, sacrificing quality of built environment, and the end product is, as everybody said, minus art and architecture. So that is one of the main concerns. It was more of a comment than a question. Thank you.
If I was to convert it into a question, I think the answer to that would be that what is our job then? Our job is really to actually find the key value in whatever we are suggesting. If we find that whatever we are suggesting can be overruled by the contractor only on account of it being costlier, then I think what we need to do is we need to be able to explain what is the benefit. We need to be explained that what is, if something is costlier, then where does it help both contractor, the client, and certainly the architect,
At
and
times,
the public as user. I
at
think
times,
that has to be one
at
of our.
times it is helping the client, but not the contractor. That is where the conflict starts.
I think what we're talking about here is the life cycle cost.
Right, right.
So the initial investment might be more, which the contractor is not ready to pay.
Okay.
But if you pose a typical item-based contract, the architect would prescribe something which will have a lower life cycle cost,
Right.
not the initial cost.
Okay.
But here, the contractor will want immediate return, that's cheapest material, I don't care what happens after 5 years.
So this is a very simple point, and what you're really saying is that this aspect of the life cycle cost has to be built into the design. It has to become a point in the design.
When we award a contract on EPC, he says, complete the project and operate the project.
Then operate.
Then operate for 5 years.
Okay.
It is the maintenance and operations.
Yeah, yeah.
That is normally kept for 5 years. And you know, after 5 years, not many things go out of order, because contractor knows कि मेरी चीज 5 साल तक नहीं चलनी है.
After that, you
उसके बाद नहीं चलने वाला.
But that is the new version, EPCM.
okay.
Here,
नहीं,
what
but
you are
in
constructing and managing.
And then manage.
If we say whatever public projects are being tendered,
Yeah.
if their maintenance is one of the maintenance.
Right.
Even sewage treatment plants, we need 7 years. So you see that plant will work only for 7 years. After 7 years, we hardly see anything if maintenance is for 7 years.
Okay. So it is evolving. Let's say that the EPC mode as given to us by FIDIC, it is evolving, and it will probably be different in different places. And in India, it will have to be adapted to Indian conditions. So these are things which going forward we will have to have in our part of our design, as part of the architect's knowledge of how to put it up in their proposals.
We have another person. Yeah. Neeraj.
Yeah.
So Neeraj, you can say.
So,
I would tend to agree with Mr. Dabu that EPC mode is here to stay, whether we like it or otherwise. Only thing is we need to find out ways and means of doing it. And I think we'll have to come out of the original shackles of, designing while thinking, and as the building goes on and all, we'll have to really come out of that. So there's a need to work on how to do a better contracting in this whole process, where the design intent is taken care of and then the other aspect is also taken care of. Like life cycle costing is a very important component that he talks about. I do not know how that can be built in this. And more than the architects and other thing, I think the Central Public Works Department or those government agencies, they also do not seem to have any clue how this EPC contract will work in context of buildings. This is my personal perception. I may be wrong on this. So I think there is a lot more to be done. This evolution is a very nascent stage. And rather than trying to say it is a good or bad thing, it is here to stay, we'll have to find some solutions where we make it operationalize in the interest of everybody.
Right.
Because otherwise, one of the things that people will do, hiring two architects. I mean, there is one experience that I can share, that The client will hire one architect who gives a design intent, then CWD floats it on the EPC mode. Then the contractor will hire the same architect with a different name because he's the fastest deliverer of the project and does it. But in the process, the fees of the architect is compromised, you know. So that soul is lost because then he's working for a contractor. How can he find out wrong or right in the contractor's work or qualitative aspects? So some of these things will have to mature in some ways or the other.
So on that note, I have a very interesting side aside from the Rahul Saab, which he says that actually the compensation of the architect can actually be better from the contractor side if the contractor is able to see the value in what the architect is giving. All right. So
I would fully agree with that. I would fully agree.
So that really means that, you know, we have to understand what value we are giving, and we need to be much more, you know, aware, knowledgeable about not just the idea that we have, but also about how in the actual execution of that idea or the execution of anybody's idea, what is the value which the architect can put in, you know? So that is, he just said that compensation will not be a problem. So if the architect is doing good stuff, the architect will get good fees. That's
Another question. Yeah. See, the tender prepared for public project needs to be in view of this so that, see, architect engineers, they play their own roles.
Right.
And the contractor cannot bypass their roles.
Right.
So that will see, there's a need to change the conditions in the contract.
Right, right.
And I need to be modified to suit the requirements of architects, engineers, and the contractors.
Right.
Then the contract.
Right.
So people, and that fundamental change in the EPC concept. Because like one of the members pointed out, the government is not clear. The government is confusing EPC with design engineering. And this is in the Niti Aayog EPC procurement document 2019. They say it's the same thing. It's something. This EPC and get an architect and engineer, then the EPC is wrong. Here you sign one man, I don't care. This is your check. I need.
This is as per this. This is as per the
Pretty-
and
pretty-
for Niti Aayog.
pretty-
Now we are here to see how to change it to suit our needs.
Right.
We have to see to suit the requirements of the architects, to counterparts engineers, to the client, to the contractor, and how we can blend all these things in a and the document. This is where my.
See, the way I see that, so the way I see it is the more we prescribe, you can, the architect can get a very strong rule, everything is prescribed. Foundation will be of this size, the function, efficiency, corridors, everything prescribed. Then if you do that, the EPC part goes out, the engineering part goes out, because then you're actually told him what to do. He is just
In full
doing
detail.
in full detail. So
Okay.
it's basically.
But if you leave a door open for some things to
You
change.
can speak engineering, you can do,
Yeah.
like what Mr. Shah said, MEP to optimize those structures.
Engineering में भी क्या होता है कि मुझे my experience, supposing हमारा जो factor of safety 2.5 हम देखते हैं, कहीं पे हम देखते हैं कि यार इसको इतना करने से चलो 2.8 भी होगा कोई बात नहीं. But when it is an EPC contract, he can always compromise on 2.5. He said 2.2 is good enough. Nothing happens.
We have a
That is
question here from
safety is also-
Deependra Prasad. Deependra, please come in.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. I'd like to bring some insight here from the point of view of our own experience in such projects. I think one of the issues which was discussed was that, you know, there are, of course, you know, like Professor Chandy also said, there are two mothers and, you know, what does the product come out to be? Well, sometimes the product could be as good as Lord Krishna, but in most cases that doesn't. Now, I guess what I mean, and here I'm, you know, taking a, you know, optimistic stance, despite all the problems which we are also grappling with. And the point is that I guess it's important for us when we are in a way the design architect or the conceptual architects to be able to give a very detailed concept. You know, it is usually put in the form of a DPR. So if you are able to detail it very, very well, then of course the changes are minimum and the original intent is retained. But of course, with the kind of propensity for unnaturally low bidding, which a lot of us in the profession are prone to, that becomes again a challenge, and you want to in a way pass it on. So that's I think a challenge, but there I think there could be a possibility where in the creation of the preliminary architect's brief, we make an intervention and make it sufficiently detailed so that possibly the intent remains. And yeah, I think the point to sort of learn here is to learn, as it's been said, learn cost control, learn value engineering, time control, which are important issues, which I think a number of us have been probably missing. So that might be something for the profession to take forward.
The agenda of our second meeting, in which we are really inviting people who have had experiences of EPC contracts and who have in a way put in a lot of work in doing the initial preliminary design, and then the project goes to EPC. So we would be discussing experiences of various architects in our next edition of this series. So we have a question from Devendra Mangal. Mangalji, please come in.
Hello. Namaskar, sir, everybody. Sir, I would like to draw your kind attention that EPC contract is basically is an idea about for infrastructure projects, right? Like dam projects, road projects, but not for the building projects. What is happening? As per our Architect Act, Architect Act is not allowed any architect to partner with some engineers. For example, in architectural partnership firm, all architect are should be there. तो हम किसी इंजीनियर के साथ एक पार्टनरशिप फर्म तक नहीं बना सकते. तो हाउ कैन यू थिंक इन ईपीसी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट जहां पे कॉन्ट्रैक्टर विच इज कॉन्ट्रैक्टर और इंजीनियर विच इज अ नॉन स्टैच्यूटरी कंसल्टेंट, उसके अंडर में हम लोग काम करेंगे. और इट इज नॉट मीन ऑफ अंडर मीन्स आर्किटेक्चर. बेसिकली आर्किटेक्ट व्हाट? आर्किटेक्ट इज meant for architecture, so perceive the design. Or it is unfortunately happening in the public procurement, lot of government projects, especially I would like to naming NBC says architect can be architect can be quote 1%, maximum 1% of fees in their project. What is the happening in this? We are failed to whatever we have a laws, हम उनको implement नहीं कर पाए आज तक. और हम रीजन क्या हो? सर माय क्वेश्चन इज व्हाई
we have a good idea. देवेंद्र जी, हमें ये जो प्रॉब्लम है वो तो हमको बहुत अच्छी तरह से समझ में आ रही है. आपने
सर इसका एक जनरेशन मैं कहना सर मैं इसका जनरेशन इसलिए कहना चाहता हूं कि व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन आर्किटेक्चरल अपॉइंटमेंट, all architectural work appointed by the engineers, not architects. NBCC have an architectural wing, CPWD has an architectural wing, every department, government department have architectural wings, but unfortunately the architect appoint done by the executive engineer or their engineers. So this, they want to surpass all these things to the engineers.
So we will take up all these points. We have identified the areas where we are suffering, and what you have just pointed out,
we are badly affected with these kind of practice
on account of our very act. That may be a point on because of which we are having this problem. So you have suggested that if architects could actually be partners in a larger group, which could actually deliver in EPC mode on the projects, then the architects themselves could be EPC contractors. Very well, very good idea, sir. So we will take up all these ideas going forward.
Thank you, sir.
I don't think we have any more questions at this time, do we?
No, sir.
So that's it for the questions, and I think yes, that is also near about our closing time. So, Professor Shah, have anything? I will.
So I will just say one line that maybe that it looks little odd, but this EPC mode or the way it is now functioning is so suicidal for particularly for the architecture profession. I would say even in the vocabulary of construction, it will be so damaging that the world architecture is practically vanishing from all the contracts. It's becoming like consultant. You know,
Right.
Its architecture is this practically the soul, and for centuries all, the architects have been the leader and they used to command the leadership. And now the shift is that you shift the leadership from the architecture fraternity to not I'm saying engineering fraternity, but to the management fraternity, and which is it's like managing anything, and now it's like managing the building, and building is not industry to the architects at least, maybe to the people who are at the helm of the affair, but it has to be sooner it is realized better it would be that the architecture and the building or the build form needs to be looked by way it should be looked. And that is what I would rather say, that we really need to put soul into it. Otherwise, we will be just like a dead mass and it's like mechanical all over. So I think whatever best we can do with Nidhi Udyog or other people, we can make a representation, we can tell them what actually the fraternity of architecture has to look upon and what is our dream like and what we think that how it is not, it is a nation building. I would say the nation dies if the buildings dies. It's the nation dies if the environment dies. And that is the soul. And we need to see that whatever we create. Now the Center Vista has not been done in EPC mode. Why? There are no two architects. So any ambitious project or any project which is of that nature needs to be controlled, vision, and it has to be by one architect who can give the direction and authority to the project. That is what over to you, Mathur Saab.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that very, very strong, emphatic reminder on what our responsibilities are. What you're really pointing out is that we need some muscle building. We need to really make our shoulders stronger so that while the heart beats inside and the mind works to the diktats of the heart, but our hands and our muscles, which are outside, they should be equally strong to take up many more responsibilities which people are actually looking at as as a measure of the efficacy or efficiency of the buildings that we do. So with that, I would like to conclude today's deliberations. There are many things that we need to talk about. There are many things that we need to bring up on the table. So I will just remind everyone that this is not the last. This was just the opening shot that we had at this, and we will be doing another one very quickly while these ideas are still warm. We will like to take them further and get feedback from all of you who I request at this table that please in your own fora, wherever you are with groups of architects, that may be within your various chapters or your various centers, or even otherwise, wherever you are in your own groups, please do two things. Number one, please recollect all the instances where you have come up against EPC as a hurdle, where you have felt that something could not be done or something was not achieved, something you had in mind but did not really happen because of the contract, and try to pinpoint what was that particular issue in the contract which did not let your dream become a reality. So this is one thing I'd like all of you to please recollect them it's very hard. I know it's very hard to sort of bring back memories of something where we are not satisfied. And we get emotional about it, but I'd say don't let that happen. Be objective. Okay. We have to catch the malady, the exact malady. We have to catch that point which is giving us the pain, okay, so that we can address it. So this is one point. The other point is that having identified that malady, having identified that particular clause or that particular condition in the contract which did not let your dream happen, would you have some ideas on how to change it, on how to improve it? What if this thing was written with some other word? It can be as small a change as the change of just one word in a sentence. That can make a world of difference. So please think of those things. Think of how those things can be improved, and we will discuss this the next time. And I can even tell you when the next time is going to be. Okay, so hold your breath. It's going to be really fast. So we are having the second edition of this deliberations on the 19th of March. So on the 19th of March, we will have EPC version 2. Okay, so we will have our next event on the 19th of March. So please prepare for that. Bring back all your ammunition and please share it. We will set up a mechanism for you to share it with us, and we will try to put it on the table in the next meeting. Besides that, I have another announcement to make. Even before that happens, we are having a Griha event on the 6th of March. 6th of March, it's within the first week of March, we are having the IIA-NC is having a Griha event. It's a joint event with the Griha, and you see the poster there. This is on the 6th of March. So please be ready for that. Just 50 seats, okay? And for IIA members, concessional price is there, good discount is there, 40% of the going price just for IIA members, and limited seats. So please book your seats right away. And with that, we come to the close of today's very interesting meeting. Before I actually say goodbye, let me say a big thank you to my fellow panelists here. On my left, Mr. Grabu, for bringing a whole new perspective. I mean, he's not an architect, but look how he thinks. That's what amazes me. I mean, it was so refreshing to actually see someone, who's talking from the point of view of quality in a project, in terms of a building. That was very interesting. Thank you, Mr. Grabu and Mr. Navneet Kumar, who was very gracious in coming and I would say in a way revealing what goes on behind what we see as a big, if not an iron curtain, but certainly a very heavy curtain of what are the proceedings that take place in the awarding of building projects by the government. So these two are the panelists who could be here on the table, and a big, huge thank you to Professor Charandeep Singh Shah for joining us from Chandigarh, far away from here, and contributing with his heart to our discussions. Your words are very inspiring, sir, and I'm sure all the architects will take note of that, and at the same time will work by giving ideas on how this could be improved. So we have our problems, we understand them. All the things that are going wrong, they concern us, and we like to keep talking about them, but I think the time is to go one step further. That's what all these deliberations are for, because we need to bring all the ideas for improvement into a form which can then be presented to the authorities concerned as the agenda for change in this mode of contracting. So thank you all. And thank you for being part of this. It was very invigorating. You have participated, wholeheartedly in the polls. That gives us a very good sense of where you're at. And thank you for your comments in the chat box. We have noted all of them down, and we'll be working on them. So till we meet again, here's to all of us. Goodbye. Have a nice evening.